The film opens with a dramatic scene. A king and his soldiers storming a dragon's cave. The king is focused, scanning the darkness as they venture deeper into the cavern. Suddenly, the dragon unleashes a torrent of fire, attacking them without warning. The soldiers fall one by one, leaving the king alone and defenseless. With no other choice, he begs for his life, and then the scene cuts, taking us to another kingdom, centuries later. This new kingdom is a stark contrast to the king's. It's impoverished, with starving citizens and a sense of despair hanging in the air. Elodie, our protagonist, is a princess here, and her father, the king, is desperate to improve their situation. A marriage proposal from a prince in a wealthy kingdom seems like their only hope. Elodie, reluctant but determined to help her people, agrees to the marriage. They set off for the prince's kingdom, their journey marked by a stormy sea and glimpses of dragons in the distance. Upon arriving at the prince's grand palace, Elodie is struck by its grandeur. It dwarfs her home. A royal servant greets them, leading them to their quarters for the night. As Elodie stands on her balcony, looking out over the vast landscape, she notices a distant glow of fire burning in the mountains. The next morning, the queen formally agrees to the marriage, scheduling the ceremony for the following day. She hints that she wants to discuss something with Elodie's father, but the details remain vague. Later, Elodie meets with the prince, wanting to know if he's being coerced into the marriage. He assures her that he's not. He finds her quite beautiful. They walk together, heading toward a hilltop with a view of the distant mountains. Elodie mentions the fire she saw the night before, and the prince explains that the mountains hold great significance. There's a cave within where ancient rituals are performed. It is there that their marriage ceremony will culminate. Meanwhile, back in the palace, Elodie's father seems troubled after his conversation with the queen. When Elodie's mother asks him what's wrong, he refuses to answer. Determined to find out, she confronts the queen herself, but the queen dismisses her, deeming her beneath her royal status. She then tells her daughters that she senses something ominous on the horizon. Elodie's father arrives to whisk his wife away, making it clear he doesn't want her probing any further. The day of the wedding arrives, and Elodie and the prince are led to the mountain cave for the ceremony. Inside, a crowd has gathered, and the queen steps forward to address Elodie. She reveals that a dragon once lived in this cave, wreaking havoc on their kingdom a century ago. Their former king sought revenge, launching an attack that changed the course of their history. The queen continues her tale, explaining that the king had ventured into the cave to confront the dragon. This dragon, however, was invincible. No one could defeat her, not even the king. To save his life, the king struck a deal. He would give his 3 daughters to the dragon, ensuring that it would never again attack their kingdom. Since then, this ritual has been upheld, generation after generation. As she speaks, the queen makes a cut on both the prince's and Elodie's hands, joining them together. From now on, you are bound as one, she declares. The prince lifts Elodie into his arms. She's shy but smiling, unaware of what is about to happen. The prince carries her toward a pit and, without warning, lets her fall. Elodie faints from the shock of the fall. When she regains consciousness, she's alone in a dimly lit cavern, her voice echoing as she cries for help. The sound stirs the sleeping dragon, who opens her eyes, sensing the presence of royal blood. Elodie tries to climb out, but the slippery walls make it impossible. Scattered around her are remnants of previous offerings, girls' belongings discarded and forgotten. Suddenly, the air is filled with a burst of fire. Insects burn to ash, revealing the dragon's location. Elodie is filled with terror as the dragon asks her name. When Elodie tells her, the dragon replies, "You are here because of a deal. Your life is the price I demand for peace." Before the dragon can harm her, Elodie runs, searching for a way out. The dragon breathes fire in her direction, and Elodie ducks into a smaller cave, narrowly avoiding the flames. But her escape isn't without consequence. Her foot is badly burned. Desperate, she tears off a piece of her clothing to bandage the wound. She knows she must keep moving to survive. Elodie presses on, despite the pain. She stumbles upon a faint blue light, drawing her toward a massive tree. However, a large pit stands in her way, and with the dragon closing in, she has no choice but to take the risk. She leaps across the pit, her footing unsure. Just as she's about to fall, she uses her knife to stabilize herself, scraping against the cliff's edge to pull herself to safety. On the other side, the blue light reveals itself as a cluster of glowing insects. Elodie quickly improvises, tearing another strip of her dress to create a makeshift pouch. She collects the glowing insects, fashioning a rudimentary lantern to light her way through the darkness. As she continues through the cave system, Elodie finds a small waterfall. Parched, she leans in to drink, but the dragon suddenly reappears, breathing fire in her direction. Elodie narrowly avoids the flames, sprinting for her life. She hides in another small cave, listening intently as the dragon's heavy footsteps echo around her. The beast's voice calls out, taunting her, as if enjoying the hunt. The dragon's voice echoed in the cavern, taunting Elodie as she hid in a small alcove. "How long will you keep running?" the dragon sneered. "Sooner or later, you'll come to me." Elodie noticed names etched into the stone walls, a grim reminder of the many girls sacrificed in this very place. Exhausted, she fell asleep, but when she awoke, the insects she had collected for light had blistered on her burned foot. Elodie was alarmed, but as she brushed them off, she realized her wound had healed completely. These insects had remarkable properties. With her makeshift lantern glowing softly, Elodie continued forward, encountering a small stone with a carved map. It seemed to show a way out. She followed the path, but it was perilous, lined with jagged rocks. Despite the risk of falling and injuring herself further, Elodie pressed on, her resolve growing with each step. When she reached the top of the mountain, she found herself at a dead end. There was no safe way down. Desperation washed over her, and she began to cry, her shouts lost to the wind. The sound of galloping horses briefly gave her hope, but then the dragon appeared, its enormous form filling the sky. Elodie darted back into the cave, the dragon's voice rumbling behind her. "No one escapes this place," it warned. "I will catch you." Suddenly, Elodie heard her father's voice echoing from below. The dragon's attention shifted, and it flew downward to confront him. Elodie followed, her heart racing. As she descended, she stumbled upon heaps of gold and, more disturbingly, 3 shattered dragon eggs. The queen's story, she realized, had been only partially true. The dragon hadn't attacked their kingdom out of malice, it had been seeking revenge. The king, upon entering the cave years ago, had found these eggs and destroyed them, sparking the dragon's rage. The scene cuts to the past, showing the king begging for his life. The dragon had told him she would spare the kingdom only if he agreed to a grim pact. To sacrifice 3 children from each generation. The king had agreed, setting in motion the ritual that persisted to this day. Back in the present, Elodie's father stood before the dragon, demanding to take his daughter back, even if it meant fighting. The dragon, unflinching, challenged him. "Then call your daughter here," Elodie's father shouted. "Elodie, wherever you are, don't come here." But his defiance only enraged the dragon. With a swift movement, she drove her massive claw into his chest, piercing him deeply. As Elodie watched her father die in front of her, a heart-wrenching scream burst from her throat, catching the dragon's attention. The beast swung around, searching for the source of the sound. Taking advantage of the distraction, Elodie rushed to her father's side. His voice was weak, but his words were urgent. "I'm paying for my sins, but you must survive," he told her. "Go. Your mother and sister are waiting on our ship." With those final words, he passed away. Elodie, choking back tears, knew she had to escape. Using the chain they had used to descend, she climbed, dodging the dragon's flames as she made her way out of the cave. She reached the top and quickly mounted her father's horse, riding away as fast as she could. The dragon pursued her, its fiery breath scorching the ground. Elodie managed to escape into the mountains, but the dragon incinerated her horse in a fit of rage. In the distant palace, the queen watched the chaos unfold. Furious, she muttered, "This is all because of Elodie. I'll fix everything." Meanwhile, on the ship, Elodie's sister watched the flames from the mountain. Suddenly, the queen appeared, seizing the girl. Her plan was simple: offer Elodie's sister to the dragon instead of Elodie, thereby sparing her kingdom from the dragon's wrath. Elodie's mother tried to intervene, but the queen stabbed her and fled with the sister. The next day, Elodie reached the ship, where she found her mother, injured but alive. "I'm fine, dear," her mother insisted. "Go find your sister. The queen plans to sacrifice her in your place." Elodie shared the heartbreaking news that their father was dead before setting off to rescue her sister. She knew the queen would take her sister to the dragon's cave, so she headed there as quickly as she could. Inside the cave, the queen had already cut her own hand and her sister's, mingling their blood before throwing it into the pit. The dragon appeared, grabbing Elodie's sister. Elodie arrived just in time, but stayed hidden, preparing herself for battle. She gathered glowing insects for light and retrieved her father's sword, along with other weapons that might help against the dragon. The scene cut to the dragon, who had not yet harmed Elodie's sister. The beast sat among her deceased offspring, whispering to the girl, "Your ancestors killed my children. Now I will kill Elodie and make your family suffer as I have suffered. I know she'll come to save you. I look forward to killing her more than you." Elodie, knowing she needed to distract the dragon, made noise in the cave. The dragon's head snapped toward the sound, her massive body shifting. As the dragon moved toward the noise, Elodie slipped in to rescue her sister. Before Elodie could rescue her sister, the dragon returned, flames flickering in her eyes. Elodie faced the beast and shouted, "We've been lied to. We were told you attacked their kingdom, but the truth is that the king killed your children." The dragon's eyes narrowed. "Whatever the truth, if they were your ancestors, then I will exact revenge from you." Elodie replied, "No, we aren't their children." But before she could explain further, the dragon roared and spewed fire at her. Elodie turned to avoid the flames and fell into a pool of water, her skin searing from the heat. As she struggled to rise, the dragon grabbed her, piercing her with a sharp claw. Elodie, in pain and desperate, swung her sword, striking the dragon's eye. The dragon screamed in rage, throwing Elodie across the cave. The beast attacked again, but its own fire rebounded off the stones, scorching its body. The dragon writhed in agony, its flames turning against it. Elodie, clutching her wounded hand, shouted, "Look at my hand. The queen cut and mixed her blood with ours to make us appear royal. We're not their descendants. The real royalty is living in comfort while sacrificing innocent girls like us. Just as they killed your children, you're killing others' children." The dragon, overwhelmed by the truth, grew somber. "My punishment should be death," it said. "Kill me and end this." Elodie refused. "I won't continue this cycle of violence." Instead, she used the glowing insects she had collected to heal the dragon's burns, soothing the beast's pain. Once the dragon was calm, Elodie knew where her real enemies were. The prince and the queen, who had lured her with promises of marriage only to throw her to the dragon. Back at the palace, the prince was preparing to sacrifice another girl, using the same deceitful promises. Elodie rushed in, shouting the truth, telling the girl to escape before it was too late. She then turned to the crowd, urging everyone to flee if they valued their lives. The queen scoffed, "Do you think surviving the dragon means you can scare us? What harm can you do to us alone?" Elodie replied, "I'm not alone." As if on cue, the dragon appeared in the sky, its massive wings casting a shadow over the palace. With a mighty roar, the dragon descended, unleashing its fury on the palace, destroying the royal family and everything they had built. The dragon's revenge was complete. In the final scene, we see Elodie, her sister, and their mother preparing to return to their kingdom. Elodie says to her mother, "I'm sure you'll use the treasure from this kingdom to rebuild ours and run it well, just like Dad would have wanted." Her mother smiled, grateful for her daughter's courage and resilience. They boarded their ship, the dragon accompanying them as their protector. With this, the story ends, leaving behind a legacy of courage, truth, and the end of a brutal cycle of violence.